Thank you so much, guys, for joining for this panel discussions today. So we have Dr. Suresh Mukherjee, who's the director of head and neck radiology at University of Louisville. We have Jake from NeuroFed, he's the CEO. We have Fabio from Cubim, he's the VP of and we have Cyril, who is the CEO of Avicenna. Over to you, Dr. Suresh.
So the way I'd like to start this out is to give each one of our esteemed guests just 5 minutes to explain what your company is, sort of a little about what you're doing, and a little bit of a roadmap, as you will, too. So why don't we start off to the left with Cyril Grandi from Avicenna.
Thank you. So Avicenna is a French-American AI company. We develop software as a medical device. Our first phase of product design was to develop triage application for emergency on CT. So we developed few applications for neuro, ICH, LVO, aspect score. And then we moved to the rest of the body, so C-spine fracture, pulmonary embolysis, aortic dissection. And then we also explored the capability of these tools to detect incidental findings. So also on the chest and the MSK, so we detect vertebral compression fracture, for example. And from triage, we moved to another type of devices. In fact, to CAD-X or CAD-E aspects was already a CAD-X, because I think the radiologists are expecting more than just flag in the worklist. It's very useful for coordination of care, but as a radiologist, they need more than that. They need quantitative data, information about the disease, and they need to see where is located the disease on the images. So that's what we are doing now. So we expand our portfolio to other type of pathology, disease to detect. So calcium in the coronary arteries and so on and so on. We started as a B2B company, so we integrated our tools with different partners, and we are very successful and very happy to work with CARPL. And also, so we invested a lot in R&D, and so we developed our own model, unsupervised model, so foundation model, and so on, to bring the next generation of tools, because I think now we are at the stage where the market is expecting something else. So fully generated report, for example, to optimize the productivity of the radiologist. So that's what we are doing, and our tools are approved in different regions around the world, in the US, in Europe, but also in Brazil, Canada, Australia, and so on. So that's what we are doing.
Thank you very much.
Cubim is a company also that dedicates to building medical devices. We have medical devices cleared in Europe, the US, also Brazil. Our main focus is MRI. We have tools for prostate cancer detection, which we integrate. So our focus is also B2C, but also B2B. So we have our own platform to distribute these medical devices, but we also integrate with OEMs, with several companies that are here. I think that we have the largest amount of evidence in prostate from any company here. We run our pivotal study with MGB in Boston. We cleared with that clinical trial. We cleared our FDA 510K for CAD-E, CAD-X, and we also have our brain MRI tools clear in the US, clear in Europe. And we also have tools for liver MRI, but these tools are constrained to Europe for now. Basically that's Cubim.
Thank you. Okay. NeuroFed?
Thank you for having me here. NeuroFed is the company provides AI solution for neurodegenerative disease, especially Alzheimer's disease. So we have many products for atrophy quantification for pre-screening Alzheimer's disease or defining the types of dementia, and also amyloid PET quantification for confirmative diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. And our the new product ARIA analysis software to detect or quantify the side effect of anti-amyloid treatment of Alzheimer's disease. And Neurofit is a South Korea-based company, and we were listed on the Korea stock market Kosdaq this July. And I think I can say the situation of East Asian countries. Yeah, thank you very much.
So just to go around the panel real quick, can you just briefly mention for the people that are here and that be listening to this is where are you regarding CE mark and FDA approval?
So we have 8, soon 11 products FDA cleared, and same with Europe. And again, our company is MDSAP and ISO certified, so we can deploy in different countries like Canada, Brazil, Australia, as I mentioned. We have also approval in Southeast Asia and Japan. So we are deployed globally and approved globally.
Yeah, the situation is similar for us. Our prostate and neuro tools are clear in Europe as well as in the US. We also have MDSAP certification. We are also certified in Brazil, in Australia. So our two main, in our case, our two main applications are prostate and brain.
We got the medical device approval from Korea and Japan. China is on progress, and also Singapore. Asian countries, and also we have FDA 510K, but CNDR is now on progress because it takes a lot of time. Yeah, and we are having a tough time to get the CNDR.
Can you talk a little bit about what you think the biggest barrier right now is into implementation of not necessarily your product? If you want to say your product, that's fine, or maybe AI in general when you go and discuss with different radiology departments?
So I mean the barrier for adoption? I think the problem is the return on investment. So how much they're going to spend on top of the existing costs. They have the radiology department is a cost center. So already pay for the packs, already pay for the modalities. They get reimbursed for some of the procedure they are doing. So when we come with a new software AI saying, yes, we're going to improve your accuracy, who is going to pay for a better accuracy? And that thing, I think, so that's why we expect the different society buyers to support the adoption of AI by reimbursement and so on. So it could be very useful. And I think that's one of the main barrier, because with what we are deploying right now, and when I say we, the field, we don't improve dramatically the productivity. So it's not that they're gonna reduce the number of radiologists or they can handle more cases thanks to AI. This is not the case yet, but I think that's where we need to go.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it. It is true that you need to differentiate yourself from your competitors in some way in the products that you think that are best in class for you. So one of the things, of course, for instance, if we would say, okay, my prostate tool helps you detect a 10% more cancers than you were detecting before, without ruining your specificity. For some people, that's going to be enough if they have the money to spend it, if they can absorb this cost beyond, what they are already paying for modalities, for packs, etc., etc. But for others, are simply not going to be enough. So I think that's the balance, and that's where you really need to convince them with your evidence that you are actually going to help them in the long run.
So just to follow up on that, when you say help them, can you, as myself as a former chair and chief medical officer, when I do have to make these purchasing decisions, when you say help, how do you convince me from a ROI standpoint how you're helping me?
So the first thing is, okay, because the situation is going to be very different across sites and across geographical regions. So it depends on how many radiologists do you have, how trained are your radiologists in a specific radiological area? Are your radiologists trained on prostate? Do you have a specific radiologist for neuro, for instance, or do you have generalists that don't have time to actually go very deep into a specific area? And what I mean with help is you have to have quantitative results in the end. Are you going to shorten the radiologist time reporting a specific case? Are you going, again, to detect 10% more cancers at the end of the day, and that's going to save you from expensive recalls of the patient? These kind of things.
So what do you feel are the biggest barriers regarding implementation of neurofet or in general AI in your experience?
Okay. In the past, I think many AI company focused on to validate the accuracy of AI to detect or quantify. But I think recently we are focusing on how our AI solution gives more clinical benefit, like how our AI support their interpretation more accurate, or and also we have clinical trial to validate the accuracy, compare this senior and also junior radiologist using AI. And the another thing, a very important thing, is the cost benefit for hospitals. Hospital is the radiologist. It can be the user, but hospital is payer. So in Korea, in the case of Korea, we explain the cost effectiveness and cost benefit for hospitals, like you can earn more money using additional reimbursement, or make a new service like healthcare checkup service. So we persuade the radiologist and hospitals both. So it is very important, I think, and also it is very big barrier to install our solutions to hospitals.
So let me follow up on when you mentioned installation in the hospitals. I think one of the advantages that CARPL have, it is a vendor-neutral platform. So individual hospitals, I just came from a session now with the RSNA fund where one of the biggest challenges that many institutions are facing now is there are lots of companies with different types of point solutions, but to actually try to replicate what a radiologist does on a day-to-day basis, it's more than just looking for nodules, it's more than looking for rib fractures, and you can map that to any organ system you're looking at. One of the benefits of a platform like CARPL is vendor neutral, and then you don't have to worry about individual contracting, you don't have to worry about individual payment schemes, so on and so forth. So can you touch on a little bit about some of the benefits that your company is seeing by working with CARPL and their vendor neutral platform?
Sure. As you said, the first part is we don't have to deal with each individual hospital. CARPL is doing it for us on a legal point of view, on a data agreement point of view, IT point of view. So for us, it's solving the main problem you have when even when an hospital is buying a software, then you have a long runway to deploy. And most of the time when CARPL already deployed the platform, it's like an add-on on an existing contract. So it's very, very useful. And especially because we cannot, as a startup company from France, we cannot go to Brazil to deploy and to have meetings locally or in US or Australia at the same time. It's not efficient. So at scale, CARPL is providing this to share what they did locally with each individual customer among the different vendors they are providing to the hospital.
Yeah, I think that's in a nutshell the answer. It is true that for us, it's very important where are you going to reach. So CARPL can complement where we cannot reach, for instance. Getting to markets where even if we have certification, it's difficult for us to deploy. That's where I think that CARPL can help a lot.
In our case, until so far, we deploy and integrate our solutions to hospital directly. But recently, it is very challenging to install our solutions because the general hospital is very big reference, and it is the important thing to go to market. But General hospital use so many AI solutions, neuro, memo, so many solutions. So yeah, it needs a lot of documentation, and also it needs a lot of cooperation between IT team and also many departments of radiology and also clinician department. So yeah, I think we recently, I feel this kind of platform is very easy to install our solution to hospitals, because it is just a matter of update, and so we can save a lot of work for documentation and also communication and collaboration with many teams. So yeah, I think a platform will be more and more. I think many users and customer needs.
So just to summarize, what the platform provides you is scalability. So they can provide the uniform vendor-neutral platform. They can go out and install the platform in areas where you may not have the marketing budget to reach. And once that platform is installed, then it's more of a turnkey operation where if you wish, then you can provide that product to the various radiologists. Does that summarize?
Yeah, exactly.
I just made that up. The next thing I wanted to ask about is, part of artificial intelligence is when we sort of implement it, we have to figure out, there are numerous touch points. So for instance, when I hear, and I come to this meeting and I hear artificial intelligence in radiology, that doesn't tell me much. But when we look at artificial intelligence, there are various areas in the value stream of radiology where AI can provide benefits. So initially it's protocoling, it's scheduling, it's workflow prioritization, it's potentially dose reduction, it's maybe making image acquisition faster. Then we have the crosshairs, which everyone knows about, which is pixel-based or assistive artificial intelligence. Now, when we talk about assistive artificial intelligence, when you do go to the FDA or if you do go to CE mark, and then each individual country in general has their own FDA-like. Now, they may take their cues from the US, or they may take it from CE mark, et cetera. Or some countries may have their own methodology for how they determine what the real benefit of that product is. When you submit to the FDA, in order to get 510 clearance, you have to demonstrate safety. That's the primary goal that you're trying to do. But oftentimes what ends up happening is that once that diagnostic accuracy is submitted to, let's just say, the FDA, that is then part of your promotions for many of these companies. And then when the radiologist or when the hospital actually purchase the product for various reasons, whether it's how the data set is trained, whether it's some type of bias. I know as a radiologist, when I'm doing MR, I think we have 30 different magnets, 30 different vendors, 30 different softwares, 30 different acquisitions. Despite our best ability, there's a lot of heterogeneity. So can you tell us a little bit about the post-market analysis and post-market assessment? Because what I'm starting to sense, especially at this meeting, is that in general, once I as a chief CMO or a department chair would purchase it, I've already said, the product is mine and I take ownership of it. But eventually, you do have to determine whether you make the right decision and what was, I don't want to say promise, but what was out there that is associated with the product may not be replicated in my own environment. So I'd love your opinion on the post-market assessment. I think CARPL does have a tool to actually assess that. And then also how important do you think post-market assessment is going to be after initial implementation?
That's a very good point. In Europe, we have to do what we call a post-market surveillance. It's part of the CE mark for when you have a product deployed on the market. After it's deployed, you need to monitor how it's working on real data. So what we did at RSNA, first of all, when we validated our product, we tried to validate it on very different data. So we collected data from 250 sites in the US to be sure that it's going to work the same with the same performances on real data than in our lab. And then, as you said, we love to when we deploy our application in a new site, what we love to do is a kind of silent mode, meaning we deploy the tool, we collect, we process the data, but we don't send the results back to the PACS. We first collect the results and we analyze internally the results to be sure that we have the same performances as expected. So it's even more than post-market surveillance. We do it in advance to identify the potential bias that the specific location have. The protocol is different, the population maybe is different because it's, it's an oncology center and there are more patients with lung nodules, or the lungs are in a worse shape when it's about pulmonary embolysis, for example. So that's very important because you mentioned promises, and what we want to avoid is, you can disappoint once. So if we deploy something and it creates a lot of false positive, or the results are not good, it's very difficult to convince the end user that, okay, we're going to solve that. So I think that's a good practice to do this post-market surveillance before even deploying live the software.
Yeah, a couple of things here. It's true that post-market surveillance is going to be absolutely paramount, but it is true that we can do things before getting to that point. Because yes, of course, we try to get data from as many sources as possible for training and for validation. But it's true that you can do things with AI, such as image harmonization, and train a model to harmonize the images that you are going to use to train or to run your inference on. So that's another thing that we can bring into the mix. And regarding post-market surveillance or monitoring, we also have, I think that we are going to a future where we will, because we do the same as them. First, when we are going to integrate into a new site, we run a set of studies, we make sure that the site is happy with the results, just to make sure that there is no drift, that we are in a good position. But we are going to need automated tools for model drift detection to make sure that even when you are happy with the results that you are getting in a particular site, but they might change magnets, they might change the acquisition protocol, and humans are sensitive to these changes also. But AI models are even more sensitive than humans to changes in this regard. For instance, if you start acquiring your flare T2 with a slight thickness of, 6 millimeters, partial volume effects are going to be all around. So these kind of things are going to affect the human also, but also the AI model. And having automated tools that don't require for you to be constantly manually assessing the studies is going to help a lot in the long run.
Okay, Neurofit is having many clinical trials for post-market surveillance to upgrade our solutions. I think the first version is not perfect, and then also we have a lot of competitors, so we need more validation study like interscanner the reliability or reproducibility, and then now not just for post-market surveillance. It needs a lot of clinical trial. Clinical trial needs kind of clinical benefit. I mentioned that. So for FDA clearance, we have a clinical trial with U.S.-based university hospitals, and then we use the U.S. data set, and also we have a clinical trial with of course, U.S. radiologists and clinicians. So I think the hurdle to get approval is very high, and I think it will be more higher and higher. I think for approvals. So I want to say that the post-market surveillance is kind of I think before get medical device approval, it needs many clinical trials in the same level of post-market surveillance using many data set, the local data set with local clinicians or radiologists. Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you a practical question. So, yeah, unfortunately, I was born in the last century and I trained in the last century. So I'm sort of I'm a dinosaur. So when you submit to the FDA and you want to demonstrate equivalency to a human, there is a certain good sensitivity and specificity. Let's just say 80%, 85%, you can kind of fill in the blank. But when I'm actually interpreting a study, and I'm interpreting this study with a resident or fellow, I am more comfortable and makes me quicker if the resident says, or the fellow says it's negative. I still look at the study, but it makes me much faster. Some of the challenge with some of the AI algorithms is that when you submit to the FDA, you demonstrate equivalency, but yet the negative predictive value is sometimes 80%, which means 2 times out of 10, when the algorithm says it's negative, it's actually going to be positive. So, and this is just more of a blue sky question, is that once you do submit the software to the FDA and you get approved, do companies have the ability to reassess their information, their data, or maybe future data collections to improve the negative predictive value? Because what I'm seeing in the marketplace right now with artificial intelligence, especially for screening, is that where a lot of this is going is for high volume studies with low prevalence of disease, in which there's oftentimes a 6-week backlog. And I'm talking about mammography and prostate screening and so on and so forth. But even for fracture screening as well too, or for other types of neurologic disorders. So I just wanted to ask you all about your thoughts about, once the product is approved, initially it was taking us radiologists a long time because we had to disprove that the algorithm was telling us there was something positive, but it was negative. And from our standpoint, it makes us feel queasy, because in case we were wrong and the algorithm says it's correct, well, it puts us at a bit of a risk. So I just want to see if you can touch on that. I'd love your opinions on this from a real world perspective.
In fact, it's a challenge because depending on the category of device you are submitting to FDA, you need to provide a software that is well balanced based on the data set you are going to provide. So if you go with half positive, half negative in your data set, then you are not going to follow the prevalence. And that's one of the issues. So then, when you design the product, you need to have in mind the prevalence and to be sure that it's going not to create too many false positive, because when you have a low rate of positive cases, it's challenging to have a product that is not specific enough, and the other way around. So, but also what is curious is the expectations of the radiologist. Sometimes you have a radiologist say, I want a very sensitive product. I don't want to miss any P or any ICH, even the tiny one. And it's not a big problem if you have too many false positives, but I don't want you to miss any one. And you have the other situation, whereas I don't want any false positive. It's creating a more burden, more noise. I want a very specific algorithm. So I think we are in the gray area where we are not going to provide a 100% accurate software. So I think what the competition and what we are trying to do is to have multiple operating points to be able to configure the algorithm based on what are the expectations of the center. If they want something specific or something more sensitive. I don't know if it's answered your question, but
yeah, actually that's tricky because actually when you go for clearance for one of these products, at least in our case, the operating points are already set in stone. For instance, for a prostate product, which I think it's something that is easier to explain your question with the prostate product. We know that radiologists are very sensitive when detecting prostate cancer. They are less specific because PIRAS-3 is there, and that's what it leads to false positives. That's it. There's no, and that's how it should be. So one of the things is that you have to demonstrate FDA that you are at least comparable to the radiologist, and that when the radiologist is using your software, he actually improves. That's what you go for, and your negative predicted value is going to be very dependent on what the problem at hand is. Because, for instance, yes, for prostate, we can get to a 95, 98% in negative predicted value. That's what we have in our validation and in the sites that we have installed with. But it will depend on the problem. For instance, it's not going to be the same the detection of prostate cancer than detection of subtle findings of ICH or LVO in acute CT in the emergency room. So it's going to be very hard to have a one-fits-all solution in this regard, where you say, okay, we should all strive for a 95% of negative predicted value. I think it's very dependent on the solution that you have at hand.
Okay. In my private opinion, I think the important thing is not only the accuracy. The important thing is, I think, how AI supports the clinical practice better. So, in the case of ARIA, many radiologists can find the microbleeds very well, but the problem is to find and count the number of microbleeds to define the severity of ARIA is not the same problem. So in this case, AI is very supportive, to for their confidence, and also can save their time. And I think many tools are widely used for research purpose, and many professors and also physicians use many tools for their research purpose. And AI is, I think, better performance research tools. So I think in this point of view, the AI solutions can be widely used for clinical practice like that.
I just want to follow up on one thing that you said. So when you do start a company like this in an area that has a high level of innovation, that every day has new entrants into the marketplace. Right now, we're at the RSNA with 60,000 people here. But I would say that if you look at the 20,000 radiologists here, they probably have 20,000 different experiences and different type of practices and different type of specialties in different type of work environments. So we know that when you create an AI product, you need to develop the academic collaborations, but a lot of the academic collaborations are with large academic centers that have, a radiologist that specializes in the right adrenal gland. Like, I'm a head and neck radiologist and I specialize in cancer, right? But when you scale it globally and you look at different types of practices, where do you feel, and this is more of an opinion than anything else, because I'm sure you're having these discussions in your company, so I'm trying to get a little bit of insight about how your company feels about this, is where do you feel the biggest impact of AI will be? Is it going to be a subspecialist that makes potentially that subspecialist more efficient? Is it going to be a 30-person group in which they don't have an expert to look at ARIA, so therefore you have the opportunity to upskill a segment of your practice? Is it possible that now you're looking at low-resource countries and you're providing them opportunities to upskill to the level overall in their departments without having individual subspecialization? Where do you feel the marketplace is? There's an old saying in hockey, Wayne Gretzky, you want to be where the puck's going to be in 5 years. Where do you feel the puck is going to be, and where do you feel your biggest impact is going to be, which is essentially going to determine sustainability of your company and your product?
So I think it's an opinion.
Yes.
So I agree with you. Our point of view is to try to focus on where we can have a bigger impact. So in terms of number of cases, we talked about incidence of the pathology and so on. So that's how we identify the topics where we want to that we want to address. And we are also looking at the Is it the same approach in different countries around the world, different regions around the world? We are very proud to know that our software has been deployed in Armenia, for example, for free to help them because they didn't have any radiologists on site. And it's possible because we selected some use cases that are scalable in different regions around the world. So I think our opinion and our choice was to target this type of use cases. I would say you ask also where it's going. I think thanks to LLM, thanks to unsupervised learning approach, we are going to move from specific disease detection to a broader impact on the radiology report, where we're going to identify 80%, 90% of what needs to be interpreted by the radiologist, and then the radiologist could focus on the difficult part of the case or the tricky part. And at the end of the day, we're going to reduce mainly the number of cases where the radiologist has to spend time and energy to produce what is standard, I would say.
Yeah, actually, even if it's just a small sample, you try to mimic that when you submit to FDA, because in the end, for your pivotal study, you are going to have radiologists with different experience. So you're going to have radiologists that have a lot of experience in prostate, but also some that are closer to a generalist radiologist. So you try to mimic that with your pivotal studies. But this also ties to your question about your negative predictive value, because depending on what are your numbers and what's the confidence that you have in your for instance, your negative predictive value, you are going to be able to deploy. The radiologists are going to be able to focus on the tricky part, as Cyril said, because then you're going to discard most of the cases that are going to end up being negative, and you're going to be able to focus on the most difficult part, on those cases that are really positive and that might be harder to interpret. And then we have to consider also another paradigm shift that is going to happen, which is Gen AI. We're talking, most of the things that we're talking about is more, and understand me, traditionally AI, so deep learning, machine learning, but we are going to have visual language models where we have LLMs, we have foundational models, we have this kind of new AI, let's say, that regulatory is still very far behind that. We start seeing some foundational models being clear, but it's mostly applications built on top of a foundational model, and this new AI might change this current scenario that we have, and we are going to probably reach areas that we couldn't reach before, and probably we will be able to have in underdeveloped areas tools that can help, not replace the radiologists, but at least reduce their burden a lot,
Okay, to make some global impact of our AI solutions, we are trying to participating in the new drug development with big pharma, and participating in this global clinical trial of a new drug development gives many chance to touch with many medical institutions in many countries. And also, after the clinical trial can be finished successfully, our solution can be provided by companion diagnosis. So we are in some project of drug development now, and then yes, and also as we are talking about the new technology using AI for drug development with several big pharmas, and they need not only quantification or detection, they need something give more benefit, like for subject enrollment or prediction, something like ARIA prediction or prognosis. So we are trying to also combine our imaging AI with fluid biomarker like blood biomarkers, so to find new something for prognosis and predictions. So that's why we are focusing on the new area for that.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've been fascinated with some of the segmentation techniques is that there's never going to get rid of radiologists, but I do wonder one day of how you look at RECIST criteria to look at tumor response, if that's all going to be automated through the artificial intelligence algorithms that can actually do automated segmentations, because you eliminate the variability of humans actually making that assessment. So oftentimes you'll have your own little labs and people are drawing their contours, but if you standardize it, you can make an argument that the results of the pharmaceutical studies are actually going to be more accurate because you eliminate the variability. I did want to touch on and follow up on what you were talking about regarding some of the new foundational models and also creating the multi-point solutions, which I think we can all agree the US FDA is a little bit, I would say, behind on. I'd like your comments on that and how, do you have any ways to try to convince the FDA to maybe follow CE mark or maybe Hong Kong or Australia to allow more multi-point solutions to be integrated into clinical practice?
I will follow FDA on that because what we want to avoid is to generate more risk for the patient. So I think the concern of the FDA is to have a software that's going to influence the radiologist in a bad way, where we're going to create more risk for the patient. So I would say, as a manufacturer, we need to prove that we are bringing benefit and we are not bringing more risk. And with those approach where you support hundreds of different diseases, and that's fine, but you need to prove that it's accurate and you are not creating more noise than that. So the problem is maybe the method that is used by FDA to support the clinical validation, the number of cases we need to deploy to show the performances, or the method itself, maybe with randomized approach where we randomly figure out different cases and so on and evaluate on that, could be more interesting than just a brute force evaluation of the performance could be the key, but we need to prove the clinical performances of the application. That's very important.
I did want to follow up on that. I know with foundational models, more and more companies are switching to multi-point solutions, but we do have this issue with the FDA, which is unique to the United States, quite frankly. So I know individual companies are petitioning the FDA. I think currently, I don't know if it's been released yet, but there is going to be the opportunity to comment on a petition. Do you envision each individual company making individual petitions, or is there an opportunity for a lot of the AI companies to come together and form a consortium or a collaboration and then approach the FDA en masse to try to have a broader constituency to convince them that this is why it's important to move forward, as opposed to individual companies making petitions?
I think that would be a nice move. The problem today is the cake is not big enough for all the companies out there to have a sufficient part of the cake. So, but we need to work together as manufacturers to come with good ideas and good proposals to the FDA to validate and to approve the next generation of the tools.
Yeah, I think that's a nice. That would be the best way to go. But it is true that I don't see that happening in the near future. I think it's difficult because, again, the cake has only a number of pieces, and I think that's going to be difficult. And don't think that Europe is much different right now. For instance, in Europe, there's only one LLM cleared as a medical device. There are no foundational models cleared as of now. There's no specific regulation for Gen AI as of today. So I agree with Cyril in the sense that we have to make sure when we adopt these new methodologies that in the end we are not going to create new problems for the patient, that we are generating an enough amount of evidence in order to make sure that it's going to be safe, and as we do now with any medical device.
Yes, it is very tough questions. But, I'm not sure how our company prepared the future using the foundation model, but this medical device needs very accurate results. in the point of the quantification, detection, anything. So it is not easy to develop very specified, accurate AI model for each work, like quantification, detection, and each lesions. So I think yes, collaboration is a very good point for the future of a foundation model in the neurological foundation AI model. So yeah, but I think in the near future it is not easy. The one is regulatory is not fixed yet, and then the kind of the intellectual property, like what how the portion of the portion of the foundation model, what company takes bigger and what company takes lower is very complex things. So yeah, I think we need more collaboration and discussion for that.
Yeah, I mean, as a practicing radiologist, when I look at the growth, as you know, there are numerous consulting companies, SG3, Gartner, so on and so forth, are predicting 10 to 20% growth in advanced imaging over the next 10 years, which are PET CT and ultrasound. So that's why I was kind of surprised you say that the cake is static. From my standpoint, when I look at the growth of radiology, I see it expanding. So I don't really see the cake as a static cake. And if you take my rice bowl, there's not going to be enough rice for everything else. My sense is that the rice is going to continue to grow, but that's my perspective from a clinical radiologist.
No, in the future, we are all expecting that at some point, what we are doing is going to be has value for the user and the customer and the buyers, because when we improve the accuracy, at some point we are saving more patients. Someone is saving money, so we expect to get a significant revenue from that. Maybe where we can collaborate, or it's on the clinical data. I think if we are with the support of FDA or with support of ACR, RSNA, if you have curated data set for everything provided by the vendors, provided by the hospital, that has been curated and are the standard to respect to get approved, then we're going to save a lot of money, and maybe at scale it works. Then I can come with my software, evaluate the performances on 100 different diseases, and get the approval. And I don't have to invest, because each company over there are investing $100,000 to have data, to have US board certified radiologists creating annotation, have a consensus about that. This is not shared by any of the companies, and maybe a third, something associated to FDA or to ACR could be useful there to provide those data sets, and maybe organized by FDA to say, okay, you have your software, we run on this data, we evaluate. If you have the green light, you're approved. If not, you're done. That's maybe where we should work, and maybe we can work together as different manufacturers to try to push in that direction.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you that the cake is not going to be static, but it is true that the companies are striving for survival today. So if they wait for this to explode, maybe they will not exist anymore. So it's a fine balance. Most of us are walking on a tightrope, and it's not always easy to wait for the future, because you have to think about surviving today. So yeah, it's tricky. Yeah.
Okay, so many companies are establishing now, and also so many companies are being disappeared. So I think that the many companies that together make the cake bigger. So yeah, it's very complex, but not yet. It is the time to collaborate. Not yet. It is just a competition. It is a good time for collaboration to make the cake bigger, market bigger. I think. Yeah. Not. I think this AI market is not yet finished.
So I think we're almost out of time. I just want to go around the table. First of all, thanks for having the discussion. I know I've learned so much from all of you, so I really appreciate your time. I do want to ask you just as one last question, when you look out into the future, can you comment on the level of disruption you think AI will actually have in radiology?
So I think the next gen of, I would not say just AI, but the packs or the reading will be completely different. We are talking about agentic AI. Agentic AI is really an incredible way to design the next generation of tools, where you imagine, I imagine a radiologist in front of a big screen, and all the information that is required to make the proper interpretation, the patient history, the labs results, all the publication, everything contextualized to the case is reading, the report pre-filled, and just has to confirm the results, and maybe focus on the tricky part that any AI cannot capture, because I think that's the added value of human. It's like, yeah, we can solve 90 or 95% of the problem, but the 5 remaining % are very tricky. Let's use the human brain to solve the very tricky part, and where experience and knowledge and shared knowledge between humans is providing value.
I mean, I think that we are going to see a change at the same level of we are seeing today in many other fields. You know, first the first fields that see a profound change are those that are not behind regulatory needs, and we are seeing a societal change right now because of the tools that we have at our disposal. GPT, Gemini, all these kind of things are having a huge effect, and in medicine, in the end, not only in radiology, in medicine in general, I think that we are going to see a similar change, but it will have to be followed with an appropriate regulatory change to make sure that that's being controlled, to make sure that, again, we are not we are not going to cause any harm to the patients. But I think that the change will come. Yeah.
I think many AI are well validated for better performance of radiologists. But in the case of Alzheimer's disease, there are many changes, like blood biomarker is a very accurate for Alzheimer's disease confirmation. You know, the gold standard was MRI and amyloid PET, but blood biomarker is surprisingly accurate. So I think it is a kind of threat to radiology, and also the company developing AI imaging. So I think only explaining the brain status using AI by radiologists is not enough. So our company is trying to make the new approach to combine image and the blood biomarker. That's why we are trying to. So yeah, there are many challenges in especially the Alzheimer's disease field. So yeah. We find a new way to survive.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and stop again. Thank you, all of you, for coming. It's been incredibly informative to me, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to CARPL for sponsoring this.